Hello, everyone, and welcome to Surviving UX. I am Meg Kramer. I'm here with my co-host, Jessamine Edwards. This ho this host is me, and this episode of Surviving UX is Surviving UX After Dark. It's going to be sultry, it's going to be risque, because we are here to talk about the design patterns that are not always so pure and innocent. Today's episode is on dark patterns. But before we get into that, Jessamine, tell me about your week. What are some light and dark moments of your life?
Hey Meg. Life has been okay. It's been a little bit stressful this week. I did just take a half day and it's pretty glorious. I ran out in the backyard with my kids and the neighborhood kids and played soccer for all of maybe 7 minutes. And I feel like I've had more exercise than I've ever had in my life. So I'm kind of like coming down from that that experience. But I feel like I have, you brought up wanting to talk about dark patterns, and I feel like ever since I have been seeing them everywhere
Ooh.
and recognizing that everywhere. And I'm like, gosh, I feel like this is opening my eyes to what's going on
Hmm.
with just being a consumer in the world. It's like everyone's out to get you.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Do you feel
What
like
about you,
dark
Meg?
patterns, that concept has like a succinct definition, or are we kind of just going to define it here for our users on the call,
Ooh.
on the
I
call,
would say
on the
it's
pod?
anywhere where like the business has the upper hand over the customer
Hmm.
and the business is like strong arming the customer into doing something that isn't in the customer's best interest necessarily.
Hmm. Hmm.
So what
Yeah.
do you think? What would you say?
Absolutely. I think that's a really great summary of what a dark pattern is trying to have your agenda, the company's agenda, take precedent perhaps over the agenda or the well-being of the customer or the user. So
Hmm.
you said you've encountered a lot of these. Any really memorable ones recently?
I guess the first one that always comes to mind when I think of like a classic dark pattern is lately how airline tickets are sold. I don't know if you've had the experience of having to buy an airline ticket recently, but they have dreamed up all these new levels of airline tickets. Like they've made coach into four levels of coach.
Hmm.
They're not very distinct from each other. Each of them has like the same, more or less the same experience. Like you're still sitting in a damn coach seat by the time you buy this ticket.
Yeah.
But as you progress through the buying process, they try to get you to upgrade. So the first part of your experience, right, is when you search for the ticket and you see the prices. So you're like, oh, wow, $400 to Rome. Awesome. Let's click on that. And then you're kind of taken through this weird and wonderful journey where you're no longer buying a $400 ticket, you're buying a $600 ticket because, oh, you wanted to carry a bag on, right, to Rome, or you wanted to be able to pick your seat, or you
Yeah.
wanted to sit together with your family, or whatever it is. And then the way that they've designed those dialogue boxes and things and buttons are that it makes it look like to progress forward, you are you're opting in, you're upgrading. And then if you don't want to progress forward and you want to or you want to progress forward but you want to just stay with the tier of service that you picked, it looks like a cancel button. It
Mm.
looks like you're going backwards. And I've noticed that and I'm like, gosh, that's so tricky. Most people will just click on that button and probably not even realize they're upgrading themselves.
Yeah.
Um, but at the end of the day, you're not getting anything for your money. Everyone's getting on the plane.
Yeah. Kind of
So,
feels like optional optional actions or optional options, if you will, shouldn't be primary buttons. They should be secondary buttons, or maybe less prominent than the default, or the thing that is the most cost effective or the best benefit for the user.
hmm. What about you, Meg? What stood out to you?
Well, I was thinking about this, and the I have mentioned on the podcast, I think before, the story, oh my gosh, it's of airports or it's about airlines as well. The
Hmm.
story that often gets retold about the airport that was dealing with angry customers around the wait for baggage to come off the
Mm.
plane into the baggage carousel. And so this is often a story I feel like we tell in UX about creative solutions and like thinking outside of the box and almost to some extent like a lauded story of how
Mm.
instead of improving the infrastructure to get bags there faster, they made the walk from the plane to the baggage
Longer.
carousel longer. And so
Oh,
the perceived wait time was less. And
interesting.
yeah, and so
They're like,
and I've
let's do a quick lap of this airport terminal and then we'll get you to
yeah.
your bags. You're like,
So
why is this path circular?
yeah, why have I seen this tree twice? Um,
Hmm.
and I feel like I've used this example in the past of like, wow, like, isn't it interesting when we think about solving problems from a different angle? But when I was thinking about it this time, I was thinking that's kind of a dick move.
Mm.
Like,
Oh yeah. Well, it's like we talked about theme parks before, and how they make their lines feel shorter by like putting displays in or having they hide some of the lines so when you first approach the ride, right? Like
mhm,
you don't see the like rows and rows of people doubled back. You just see like the short line of maybe 10 or 20 people. You're like, all right, let's go for it. And then
yeah.
you're like, you round the corner and you're like, oh God.
Right.
So kind of the
Rise of
same
the
idea.
Resistance at Disneyland, which is I would say maybe their newest ride that hasn't just been a refurbed ride of something else, is exactly like that. Like you get into this one tiny room with multiple switchbacks in it, but it's a really tiny room and you cannot see what's in the next room.
Uh-huh.
And I was seriously like, this is anxiety filling that I
Huh.
don't
Tiny
know like
room.
how
Oh yeah,
far
you
away
can't
I am.
see
It was
what's
also the
next.
first time I'd been on the ride, so I didn't know the line very well.
Mm. Yeah, I think you know what it is sort of like, hey, let's make people's first impression of this easier or like less painful by making this wait seem shorter. We're going to break it up. So you'll
Hmm.
get to be in this first room for the first 5 minutes, and then the next 50 minutes, you'll be in these other rooms, and it won't seem like you're just sitting here for an hour, but you will
Yeah.
be. Yeah, for sure. That's a really good example, actually. It's kind of a cool one, but I don't know if they're solving the problem of getting people on and off faster. Seems like adding more cars or adding more loops or whatever would be that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Maybe
um,
what are some other ones? Do we have any examples that are outside of like airports and fun
okay.
transportation?
So this is one example that I just recently read about with a GM. It was reported in the New York Times. And basically, GM has some models of cars that were sold that do surreptitious data collection that then the data gets sold, that driving data gets sold to insurance companies. And the reporter who wrote the story discovered that they as well were had their data collected and sold to
Hmm.
the insurance companies. And the impact of this was that people's insurance rates went up. So, and they had no visibility of their own data and no opt-out mechanism and no consent was granted. So, basically, this is a way for those companies to enrich themselves off of you and your data
Yeah.
without your knowledge whatsoever. So they
This
can
is
sell you the car, make money off you in that transaction, and then they can continue to make money off you after the sale by collecting and selling your data.
this is
So,
wild stuff.
yeah.
This is wild. Like I the insurance in some states there's like an insurance company that will put a tracker like that with your consent you opt into this like you get some sort of data collection thing from the like from the insurance company, and then it does send data back to them. And then if you're a
Yeah.
good driver, like they give you discounts. And
So,
that's not
yeah.
available in California. I'm presuming for
Oh,
some sort of legal privacy reasons. And so like, but
interesting.
I was like, oh, I'm a good driver. Like maybe I should be getting discounts. Maybe this is worth doing. But that's totally different than the car company like doing it in the
Doing
background and
it,
being like, you
yeah,
know
and
what?
then you
This is a
not being
great
involved in the
idea.
transaction. It's not like, and that's the other thing that it talked about was that a lot of people, that's the way they do pitch this when they have those opt-in programs. But what they don't talk about is how it will make your insurance go up if you
Hmm.
cross the threshold. The metrics that they collected were like hard braking events, speeding events, you know,
Hmm.
fast turns, things like that. So, of course, everyone thinks they're a good driver, right? I mean, what would you do if you opted into the program and then you saw your rates went up? You'd switch it off immediately, right?
Yeah.
So,
And
yeah,
who's to
I
say
mean,
where they will like change the thresholds and when and for what reasons and
right.
that kind of stuff.
And the one
Um,
example they gave in the story was a guy who had taken his car to a racetrack and driven it around the racetrack, obviously at a top speed, and his insurance rates went up like $500 a month or something insane.
whoa.
So,
That's,
yes,
yeah.
the customers discovered this. I don't know how it got discovered, but now I think they're backing down on some of this stuff. And I just thought, gosh, who dreams this stuff up? This is the stuff that gets dreamed up in back rooms and, rolled out secretly. And
Mhm.
it's just, they think they're going to get away with it forever. It's crazy.
Yeah. So UX designers, you and me, all, presumably many of our listeners, like we like to think of ourselves as in the business of creating good experiences for the user, for the customer, and kind of being that advocate or being that voice, like back to the business or that canary in the coal mine of like, let's think this through. And like we like to think of ourselves like that. But at the same time, these things do get out there in the wild on live in production. And so there has to be some of us at some time,
Mm-hmm.
involved in designing these. And
Yeah.
you know, I I think that it's good for us to be aware that like we can't be completely it's kind of like the idea that we can't ever come into something and be completely unbiased. We also can't come
Innocent.
into something and be completely for I was going to say for the customer, but I think I really mean just like completely on the pure light side of things.
Mm-hmm. Do
And
you feel like you've strayed into that dark side?
Well, I guess I'm wondering, what happens to designers that maybe get called out by their peers for working on a project or for putting a design in their flows that could be considered a dark pattern. Like what, you know,
Yeah.
what do you think that designer should how do you think that designer should respond or what should they do if
Gosh.
they get called
I
out?
mean, I think this is where our field is so overprivileged because we are architects and we don't have to live in our own houses so much of the time.
Mm-hmm, hmm.
And we can put out there whatever, you know, we kind of ostensibly want, and we don't suffer, we don't hurt, we don't feel it. And we're very removed from customers so often
Hmm.
that if we do introduce something, it will take a really noisy contingent of customers to make us, scrap it. And usually when I see that play out, it's, the person who did that project, the PM who did that project, have moved on from the team. So culturally on the team, it's safe to say, oh, we have new information now
Hmm.
and we're going to revisit this decision. But
Hmm.
a lot of times it seems like when you're working in software that previous decisions are sort of given a lot more credit than they really sometimes should be. Like, oh, they knew exactly what they were doing when they made that decision.
Hmm.
And I mean, people live, I think teams live with bad decisions for a lot longer than they have to because they're afraid of wronging, you know, somebody made that call and they must have known what they were doing at the time. I can think of so many examples.
Yeah.
What
That is
about you?
definitely back to kind of like my whole tirade about this in our industry and tech in general, just having such like high turnover is that, or just people hopping from company to company is that, yeah, you absolve yourself of responsibility. Like I can't
Yeah.
imagine anybody thinking, oh, I'm responsible for a decision I, made at a company like 3 companies ago where I was there for, 9 months. That just doesn't, that just wouldn't, they probably don't even remember what they worked on there, let alone, what they were responsible for.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
So I will admit that like a couple weeks ago that this did happen to me. Like somebody called me out and my
Ooh.
first emotion was so defensive. I was like, "What? Like why would I have like how like no, I would never. I would never like I would never propose a dark pattern as a solution." Um and
Mm.
uh and yet on further reflection, like glad that somebody was willing to kind of give that feedback and give that comment, and made me think a little bit more about the solution I was suggesting, for sure. And the other piece of this the is the like you can't get yourself off of a project um that, is going in a certain direction. And so, do
There
you
are
have
ways.
documentation about the decisions being made?
Ooh.
What do you kind of, how do you kind of
You
progress?
know what? I have 100% see designers do that. It's consultants who
Mm-hmm.
come in for a short amount of time. Have you seen this too? Where in one case in particular, I'm thinking they basically sat down and wrote a doc of compromises that have been made to launch, something,
Mm-hmm.
and all the things that they think could have been done better, should be
Mm-hmm.
done better, future states, if you will.
Yeah.
But basically to kind of document like, oh, this isn't great, but we're, you know, but I'm aware, like just so that like their name doesn't get dragged through the mud. If someone's like, well, so and so designed this piece of garbage,
Yeah.
then they could point to the doc. And I actually referenced that doc on their behalf several times. So they were smart to do it. To say like, oh yeah, we know that there's issues, and look, here's a doc outlining all the things that still could be done and it could be improved, and we're aware of their shortcomings.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Sometimes
But
our jobs are
how did you,
just a lot
yeah,
of documentation about the
exactly.
decisions made, which is again kind of wild to me because that wouldn't be in any job description, I would assume, for a UX designer.
I love decision docs. But what about you? Like you said you got called out. Like what happened?
Hmm.
Were you on a crit or what?
Yeah, yeah.
Ouch.
Well, I
Ouch.
was
I want to hear
giving
more.
so I was
Spill the
providing a
beans.
suggestion to somebody else's feedback session.
Okay.
And when I gave my suggestion, that was when somebody said, "Oh, that wouldn't be appropriate. That would be a dark pattern."
Ooh.
And
Okay.
after all these years of doing this job, you'd think I wouldn't have suggested something like that, right?
Uh-huh. Ooh, I love it, Meg. All
Yeah.
right. You
So I
can be
just,
turned.
I just
Everyone has a
quietly took
price.
my suggestion back and just kind of like put it in my back pocket and said, like, and just kind of that's basically what I did. But at
Boy.
first I felt really defensive, and then I felt like reflective of,
Do you
what.
think that, I mean, did you feel attacked, or do you feel like the criticism, like the
Yes.
way that the person delivered the criticism was fair?
So that is an excellent segue to the fact that I think that there's got to be a spectrum.
Okay.
And much the same as there's a spectrum from light to dark, there has got to be a spectrum on patterns from light to dark. And it's not just that something is completely dark, right? Or something is completely like positive and good and the right thing to do for the users. These designs that we do land somewhere on the continuum. And so I think that's where I landed on how I reflected on the situation, is that I don't think it was the most horrible, malicious like suggestion in the world. And it was not suggested with malice or intent.
Mm-hmm. Okay. The
But
road to
it
hell.
definitely, was more of the like, let's get the business goal across the finish line.
Mm.
And and possibly, I'm gonna admit, maybe a little bit of motivation of like, we've talked about this multiple times, like how can we solve for this to like move on and like get
Just check all those boxes.
check all those boxes. Yeah. So I think maybe it was also just coming out of fatigue, which I guess is another good thing for listeners and UX designers to be aware of, is that we probably are more likely to suggest things like that when it has been a long struggle, a long haul on a
Well,
project.
yeah, I mean, what's the culture of your team too? Because, a saint, a UX saint who's like, oh, we got to do this and we got to do that and we got to check
Hmm.
this and that, versus someone who's like, let's get this project out the damn door, and
Yeah.
not everything's going to be perfect, not everything's going to be great, but we'll get it out there and then we can move on. Those are two ends of the spectrum, and there's always the difference between the ideal and the reality. um I just feel like I'm constantly what's the word, grappling with the ideal of how I'm supposed to be doing this job versus the reality of getting it done. And how I'm spending my time. Am I spending my
Hmm.
time where I want to spend it? But on behalf of the user, if there's a shortcut or something that's going to achieve a business goal, I mean, yeah, I guess I think you could twist those arguments any way you wanted, frankly. I really do. I think it would be, there's a very high judgment zone there. But I don't know. I think it's obvious when you see it, right? You know it when you see it, when
Hmm.
you're a customer and you're doing something and someone's like, I mean, even just today I was shopping online looking at clothes and there were like 1,000 pop-ups. And I just thought, oh my God, can I look at some pants or do I need to click on all these pop-ups, all these layers?
Hmm.
And I just thought, this is not in my interest. If I had my way, you know, I would have a very different experience. This is in their interest to show me all these stupid ads and banners and whatnot, trying to get me to sign up for things I don't want. I guess, gosh, it's so common that I don't even know, like if we even are aware of it anymore, how much better life could be if we weren't constantly inundated with crap when we're online. Does that like make sense?
Yeah, and the trading of your personal information for some shiny thing that they're showing you that they think has value to you, that is that feels just really like overkill these days. Even in physical places too. It's not just online. It's definitely like, I go to Ulta, the shopping store, the the
I
store that
wouldn't
has
know
beauty
Ulta from a
products.
hole in my head because I do not buy makeup online or anywhere, frankly.
And well, they also sell things like shampoo, and they sell gifts and stuff like that. So occasionally I'll go to Ulta, and they always are like, give me your phone number. And I'm like, you
Are
do
you
not
gonna
need
call
my phone
me?
number to check me out. Like, just
Yeah.
bring my stuff up and let me go. You don't need my
Wouldn't
phone
it be cool if there
number.
was a fake phone number you could put in? I
I
guess you could
always,
just put
yeah,
555.
I always put in, yeah, fake phone numbers. And of
Really?
course,
What's
and
your
then
fake
people
phone
have burner
number?
emails and all sorts of stuff. So it's
You
like,
do?
what are we even doing? What are we even basing all these decisions on if people are just giving information that's fake anyway? I don't
I
even
never
know.
did that, but my husband does, where you make like all these different email addresses and you use certain ones for certain things. So if you have to give an email for like something spammy, you can give that one, like an MSN.com email or something.
Yeah, I am. I wish I was as organized as that. So like I knew which ones I was using for which, but maybe someday I'll get there.
Mm.
But I do have a burner email address as well.
Oh.
Which I created way too late in life. It has the year 2019 in it. I probably
Okay.
should have created it like a decade before that. But that is my burner email address from 5 years ago.
Nice. Very good.
Uh yeah.
Well, I will say this. I did come across one other story that did deeply kind of disturb me, and it was about this was also reported in the New York Times and Washington Post about data privacy for women who are getting abortion care. And it talked about how some states are actually redesigning their paperwork to collect less information from women who seek out abortions because that data has been weaponized. It gets published online, and people are able to reverse engineer who somebody from this town of this
Mm.
age got an abortion or what have you, asking about address, asking about education levels, race, ethnicity, and
Yeah.
all these identifiers, and then
If you
literally
don't
putting it online.
absolutely need it, do not collect
Do
it.
not collect it. And so that is playing out in states. Some states want that information, they want to publish it, they want to collect it
I wonder which states
to
you're talking about.
yeah, right. And they want to use it for prosecution purposes. They've even said as much that they want to use it to enforce laws and they want to track if someone has crossed state lines. So if you are in one state getting your abortion care and then you've come from another state that potentially that state could prosecute you. So it's really scary, frankly, like how data is just getting used against you. And when you sit down in a doctor's office and fill out the form on the clipboard, that could come back to haunt you is just truly terrifying, and it just reminds me of Handmaid's Tale, frankly. What do you think about that stuff? Have you ever felt like, I mean, I personally can think of a time when I was at a clinic and they were asking for my income to go have like a checkup. And I was like, ugh. And I felt weird putting it on there, but it was like, put your income. And then I turned in the clipboard, and then the receptionist, one of the guys came over to me with the clipboard and he pointed to the income and he's like, "Is this monthly income or annual income?" And that's when I was like, my heart sort of like I went cold and I was like, this is my monthly income. And they're like, "Okay." And I was like, "Great." You know, this is so personal and I don't want to share. I don't want to share how much I make. And it's crazy how often that question comes up. And in that medical setting, I was like, ick, why did I even do this? I should have just, I don't have to give it. You know what I mean? They weren't going to turn me away. So I don't know. I don't like
Yeah.
it. But I don't feel
I
empowered. I don't feel empowered to say no.
no. Yeah,
Like what?
it's harder when you're faced with forms that are digital that are having like required fields and things like that.
Uh-huh.
I
Yeah.
feel like, I feel like if you can put something in a form field that will just get you to the next step and have
Yeah.
it, be not applicable, just put in like a blank or not applicable, like, yeah, whew, it 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 does feel like it's in your best interest to not be not like your specifically, but everyone's best interest to be skeptical of why people need the information that they're asking for.
Yeah. I
It's
think it's like, let people decline. I think that's something that you can, if someone wants to provide it, great. But if
yeah,
they want to decline, let that be an option and say, I choose not to answer. I do see that on form design for gender, where they'll give now like a non-binary option or I choose not to answer. I see that. Where it bothers me the most, honestly, is when you see it on job applications,
yeah,
where you're filling
they
out the
should
job
be
applications and
doing
it's
that on
like,
job applications.
what's your gender? What's your race? What's your, status? And I just think, God, this is so personal. And what are they doing with this information? And of course, it'll say, "Oh, we're collecting it just for FYI, just for data
Mhm.
collection." But it's like, well, who's guaranteeing that that isn't getting used against you? I mean, there are studies out there that show that people pay attention to, names and what they perceive as, certain ethnicities of names, and that influences hiring, it influences interviewing, getting a call back and stuff like that. I mean, it seems like that kind of stuff should be anonymized, honestly.
Very true. Very true. Well, we've talked about a number of different dark patterns here,
Very
but we will
dark.
have to we'll have to wrap it up here. And we have an exciting idea for our next episode. So we hope you will come back and listen again for the next episode in our series. And take us away, Jessamine.
Oh, thank you guys for listening. If you need any advice or sympathy for your UX career, write to us at survivingux@gmail.com. Bye-bye.
Bye. Surviving UX is hosted and edited by Jessamine Edwards and Meg Kramer. Our theme music is, among other things, the on-hold music for Cisco Phones, Opus No. 1 by Tim Carlton and Derek Deal. And contrary to what I just said, I would be perfectly happy to give out my phone number. It's 619-555-5555.